Hello. Welcome back to Film Conscious.
My name is Erin.
My name is Maddie.
If it's your first time here, hello. On this podcast, we will discuss films and their various meanings and give our general take on them. We will chat a little bit about actors, scenes, songs, and many other important film stuff.
Please like and subscribe.
This week, we will be chatting about the film, But I'm a Cheerleader. Some warnings to be aware of. This film is rated R and it includes strong language and sexual content involving teens.
Trigger warning, this film includes abuse and topics that touch on conversion therapy. LGBTQIA plus resources are the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255.
If you need any resources, they will be in the description, and definitely check them out if needed. The film But I Am a Cheerleader, directed by Jamie Babbit, is about a high school girl, Megan Bloomfield, who is sent to conversion therapy camp due to her family's and friends' growing suspicion of her being a lesbian. At camp, not only does Megan conclude that she is a lesbian, but also she comes to embrace her sexuality and builds up some real sweet friendships and builds some relationships with those she meets there. This film is based on the novel published in 1995 by Vito Russo. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that name wrong.
Okay, on to the film's meaning. The film is a satirical take on conversion therapy that is ultimately telling the audience that queerness is not something that can be cured, quote unquote cured, nor is it wrong to embrace your own sexuality and queerness. The film was made in 1999, and for the very limited amount of queer films, especially ones that cover lesbians at the time, this became an iconic queer film staple. We get representation of individuals with varying identities, such as characters who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, and trans. We even get to see RuPaul, who makes an appearance as the previously gay man who has retired his old identity to be a manager at the conversion therapy camp.
I wanted to touch on a few things, one of the main things being the limited casting. There's around 27 total cast members, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, the casting, I was looking through it. Obviously, there's the people in the beginning, there's the cheerleaders, and then there's people from school, and her friends, and her freaking boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. Um, Outside of that, we have everyone who's at conversion camp, which is a very limited amount of people. There's not that many people at the camp. It's not a big camp.
Yeah.
Also, I found out we took a small break before this, but I was looking up the casting. There's actually a lot of people who I didn't recognize. Natasha Leone, we have Clea Duvall, obviously. Mind you, both of them are still really good friends in real life, which is awesome. We have RuPaul. We have Melanie Linsky, who's pretty big now. Um, we also have Bing Stoll, who I don't think you've ever seen any John Waters movies,
Oh,
but they're very big in I think queer, especially the queer film scene, especially in that time and still now. They're a very big part of why queer film is the way that it is. But they were a constant character in all of their movies, which I think was cool. We also have Dante Basco playing as Dolph. He's also Zuko in The Last Airbender, which I thought was funny. And then you have a whole bunch of other people who are very cool.
yeah.
So awesome casting.
There's a lot of casting that are still doing really amazing today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw in an interview that and Natasha was talking about how at the time she kind of saw But I'm a Cheerleader as more of a John Waters movie, um, being very like campy.
Mm.
Um, but I think now looking back at it, she just said like the film is really beautiful, and I think it's a very It's definitely a staple in queer cinema history. I think it opened a lot of paths and was inspiring to a lot of people at the time just because like that kind of stuff wasn't present on screen. And I actually don't know how big it got. I'm pretty sure you could watch it in theaters or you could rent it out, but it's definitely a bigger queer film, which is very critical.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the nostalgic sense of the film. The film was made in 1999, so it is it's in our generation and it's still close to our beginning of life. But I thought we could talk a little bit about the color scheme, but also just the nostalgic sense overall.
Yes.
I wanted to bring up that the camp house that they stay at, is entirely blue and pink themed, which I think is interesting, just relating that to gender as like females and males, and they separated the two groups, and they each had to wear certain colors, and like just the overall color scheme was interesting.
The color scheme was awesome. I think whoever was on set design and on the design team was awesome. But other than the blue and pink, which is obviously very vital to the film, it wouldn't be But I'm a Cheerleader without the amazing set design and art direction.
Yeah.
But I think like we get some scenes like they're in the purple room, like
Mhm.
when they're cleaning and all that, and like each room has a different kind of color. Obviously, the girls' room is all pink, and like their beds. I don't know if you paid attention, but they're like very like old antique, very sleek. They have that weird plastic layer on them.
Yeah.
Oh, also, oh my God, the costume design is also very good.
Mhm.
Not only their outfits outside of like what they wear in camp, but also they have those they have the outfits like their uniforms and
Yeah.
then they wear to their graduation. Um
It reminds me a little bit like when I went to camps, not conversion camps, obviously, but I went to like camps for fun for different groups and activities. That was more outdoorsy. This reminds me very much of a hospital. Like if you stay in a hospital, you know that they have very certain color schemes. Your clothes are very like clean and uniformed. It just felt very uniformed.
yeah, they yeah, that's a good point. They definitely are kind of like hospital reminiscent.
Mhm.
Like the girls wear honestly it's kind of what I'm wearing right
Very
now.
button up.
Button up and then it's all pink and then they have their little like pocket square.
Mhm.
The guys have like basically this, but obviously more loose, and then they're like blue, like short sleeve blouse, and then blue pants, like
It's
tape.
giving nurse.
Giving nurse. It's giving nurse.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Also, at the end, I want to give a shout out to the costume designing at the end. I thought it was funny that the suits that they were in the end for the guys, they're all like weird and like latexy. I
Mhm.
don't know if you noticed that they're like bright electric blue and very latexy.
Yeah.
It was weird, very cool. You know how like Wes Anderson has that very like symmetrical. He obviously is like
Yeah.
pays a lot to color schemes, pays
Mhm.
attention to color schemes. I think having something like that at the time, being Jamie Babbitt's, but I'm a cheerleader, is very cool to see. Because I don't think, I mean, Wes Anderson was there at the time, but he didn't get big yet.
There's just attention to detail that some films wouldn't pay attention to.
Yeah, it has very specific art direction, and I thought that was awesome. It was awesome.
The last point I wanted to cover was just our overall thoughts on the satire, because the entire movie is a satire. Um, but also the film is rated R.
Yes.
And that's really interesting because the film doesn't really have too many things that lead it to be rated R.
I think a big part of the rated R rating is maybe because it was queer, which is a problem. I think a lot of films at the time, obviously, there's a big problem with censorship.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping that's not coming back, but I think censorship at the time, definitely still in the 90s, was very present, especially for queer communities. Um,
I think it's if they put it out right now, it maybe would be TVMA, also just because we have a interesting president right now. But I think it still wouldn't be rated R because there isn't any true graphicness or sexual content.
there really isn't.
The
There,
language also isn't, they don't cuss very often. It's not,
if anything, it's PG-13.
yeah.
Very most. I think it's very lighthearted.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I will say there are slurs, which maybe is a flag, but I don't think that's a cause for anything more than PG-13. Like, I definitely don't think it's rated mature. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely not up on that scale.
Yeah.
The only thing that they say about sex and nudity is that there's that scene where Graham is mentoring Megan using the flashcards, if you remember that, and there's a card with a paper cutout of like a nude female body just like glued to it.
I feel
But
like there's a lot of films that have like magazine pictures and stuff too, though,
they
that they
don't
don't
have
get
like
it.
Playboy magazines laying around, but that's not flagged as rated R.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. But also, it was 1999, so our rating R now might be different than it was.
It definitely is. Favorite actors in the film. Um, I genuinely love the whole casting of the film. I think the casting director did very well with picking their actors. Obviously, I love Natasha Lyonne. That's Aaron's probably favorite too. Yes.
Yeah, I said Natasha.
Also, I mean, how could you not love Natasha Lyonne? And then also shout out to Melanie Linsky, which is I think her name, who plays Hillary, the girl with the glasses. And then she plays Beatrice in Over the Garden Wall. And then she also plays Shauna in Yellow Jackets, if you've watched that.
I keep on picking people that are main characters, but they're just the best. If you got the role of main character, you deserved it. So you're probably a good actor. Therefore, I just love Natasha. But a little shout out to RuPaul because RuPaul. Who doesn't love RuPaul?
I love RuPaul. Also, RuPaul just does like throughout the whole thing, he's so funny. He's so goofy.
RuPaul does so much. Fashion, singing, acting.
Very,
RuPaul can do it all.
very iconic to the queer scene, especially during that time.
True.
Like these 90s, everything going forward. Quotes or important moments in the film.
For my favorite quotes, I took these from the film, so I don't know if they're included in the novel. Neither of us have read the novel. Um, but my first quote, I said, this was said by RuPaul. I myself was once a gay, now I am an ex-gay Megan. I think it's just hilarious coming from RuPaul.
Yeah, he pulls that line, and then also like throughout most of it, he has a straight as great shirt just like on him.
Really liked the whole general idea of when they would bring up being vegetarian, and that's how like that's just like an inherently gay thing. So one of the quotes I put was, "Well, I'm vegetarian," and everyone kind of just like nodded in agreement at Megan being like, "Yep, that's a sign." Um, I think that's funny because I'm vegetarian and I'm gay, but like I feel like it's just a stereotypical thing.
The first quote I have is a conversation. between Graham and Megan. Graham says, "You are who you are. The only trick is not getting caught." And then Megan says, "How'd you end up here?" Graham says, "I got caught." I thought it was very silly. It's also very true, I think. Especially also being queer has always been kind of a rough thing. I think now times it's definitely more open because we have the internet and a space for queer people to talk and communicate. But I think at this time it's like the 90s, like things are still pretty rough, and there's a lot of people who are still like in the closet from their families, and I think it's just like a very very good quote. I like this quote. Um the second quote I have is "I'm a homosexual" by Megan. It's her
Classic.
iconic line. Yeah. Favorite moments. Um, my favorite moment probably has to be the montage that goes on. It's like mid-movie. It goes on between Megan and Graham, and they're slowly getting closer. Um, they get more coupley. Graham like snugs her arm up to Megan and has her hand over Megan's arm. They're like cleaning together, they're being silly together, and then they kiss at the end. It's great. Good montage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I said my favorite moment probably is just like the whole having a rooted issue in your life concept that they have like a scene where they're all trying to figure out their rooted like reason why they're gay. And just having a root to like any problem is just a hilarious concept to me. Like it does happen. But just trying to find something that's so significant in your life that causes you to be gay, and it's a funny little moment between everyone. A lot of little moments with Andre. Andre's hilarious.
Love Andre. Overall rating.
I said 8.5 out of 10. Compared to the last two films we've talked about, it's just a whole different vibe. But I mean, like, it's just not, I don't know that I would say it's a top 20 film for me, but it's a really great film.
It is a very good film. I rated it 10 out of 10.
Maddie's gonna be rating everything 10 out of 10.
I'm known on Letterboxd for putting things only as fours and fives, and if I don't like it, I'll usually put it at a three to be nice. I don't have any. I only have one. Oh, I have two ones, and that's it. That's it. Favorite song in the film.
I said, well, I first kind of talked about how like most songs are very youthful, especially towards the beginning of the film. They're kind of adolescent seeming, like they're instrumental pieces. But then after the kiss, which is somewhat mid-film, it switches to less of an adolescent vibe. Um, my favorite song in the film, I would have to say, is Funnel of Love by Wanda Jackson. It's just a jam. It's only in the film for like
It's only
20 seconds or so,
but it's so.
but it's a jam.
I think "Funnel of Love" is also a song that a lot of people pick in their films. Like if you've watched The End of the Fucking World,
Mhm.
"Funnel of Love" also plays. Very good song. Very like teen, adolescent, coming of age.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wanted to point out that I think if the film was like remade nowadays, if they had Boy Genius or Tegan and Sarah make a album for this, it would be the best thing ever.
I think you just love Boy Genius and Tegan and Sarah.
See, I don't listen to Boy Genius very often,
But
but
it
I
would
think when they make stuff for films or for specific pieces of art, gorgeous. So,
right.
yeah.
It would be very lovely if Boy Genius made the movie. made the music for the movie.
Mhm.
Um,
Tegan and Sarah have more of like a playful vibe, and the Tegan and Sarah show has a more like playful adolescent vibe, so I think their music would also go really well with the film.
it would definitely fit well.
Mhm.
I said all the songs were bops. I thought they're all good. They also picked a lot of people for the songs that I thought was very awesome. They picked April March. I love April March. They have the iconic song in the beginning, Chick Habit, when like all the cheerleaders are doing their thing.
Mhm.
But awesome song, maybe one of my favorite songs of all time. Um, and then If You Should Try to Kiss Her by Dressy Bessie, very good. Also very good song. I listen to it all the time.
Mhm. Favorite songs of the week. Tying back into Tegan and Sarah, I'm gonna have to say Hey, I'm Just Like You by Tegan and Sarah. It has a very similar vibe to the film, so I felt like it was just a good song for the week. Um, yeah, shout out to Tegan and Sarah.
My song of the week, I'm gonna pick an artist because I've been listening to their whole discography. Um, but they're I'm pretty sure they're French, and I'm gonna butcher their name. But Fabienne Del Sol. If you want to look up their songs, they have I'm Gonna Haunt You is a very good song. And then also they do Chick Habit from the movie, but they do it in French. Very good. Very good. Media of the week. Um, my media of the week is Memoir of a Snail. It's a film from 2024 by Adam Elliott. They also made the film Mary and Max. They make a lot of claymation films. They have a lot of short films, but this is one of their bigger films that got released to theaters, and it is very good, very sweet.
For other media shout out for this week, I'm gonna say Beautiful Beings. It's a 2022 film. It was very peaceful. I've been watching a lot of this specific company's films. I think most of them are based in Ukraine, but I started one that was French as well. So they have more just like again adolescent, but like summary. They're just good films. One in a Thousand that was made in 2020. Also, I wanted to shout out. Very good. Yeah. I think to add to the ending of the movie, it's a great ending, but I also think that I think like many queer movies, it shows the side of freedom and acceptance. And this isn't always an option for everyone. I think it's important to talk about how they make it seem so easy to escape, and it's not that easy for everyone. Sometimes it is easy, sometimes you're accepted right away. But especially right now, that isn't something that's happening for a lot of people. And I think it's just important to like point out if you're struggling. It in films, it makes it seem like you can accept yourself and everyone else will accept you. And maybe that's not the case. But there is hope and there are resources and there's plenty of people that love you. Yeah.
I think you can definitely tell when a director or the team behind it can actually understand queer media and is a part of the queer community versus someone who isn't making a queer film. I think throughout throughout cinema in general, when you have a queer character, they're usually made fun of,
Mhm.
and they're always kind of like they're either the villain in the plot story or they're just like they're kind of just like a joker. They're there for people to laugh at, like the sissy character, like a guy that's being super feminine and like overly girly, but just there's nothing wrong with that, but also it's always
It's very stereotypical.
stereotypical and it's always what is it called? Like the thing of the joke, the do you know what I'm talking
Elephant in the room,
about?
the
The whole thing for people to laugh at. Like and that's always the case in cinema history. So having films that can like actually look at the queer community and like embrace it in a way that's not harmful for the people who's watching. Like it's obviously for a queer audience, not for a
yeah,
straight audience to like laugh at.
yeah,
Very good film.
would definitely recommend.
Would recommend. Oh, if you've watched this film, I think you would also probably really like The Watermelon Woman, which is another 90s lesbian queer film. Very good. Would recommend.
Thank you so much for watching and or listening. If you like our podcast, please like and subscribe. Check out some of our other episodes and our future episodes.
Thank you. Please subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Please leave a like.
We love you.
We love you.